How many times would you click for $14,000? 100 times? 1,000? 10,000? At first glance, clickholding looks like a joke. A meme of a game with a title that makes you double take. You're in a dingy motel room. A masked man tells you to press a tally counter 9,999 times. In return, he promises you $14,000. That's it. No flashy graphics, no fast-paced action, just you, the clicker, and the eyes watching you. But as the clicks pile up, something begins to unravel. The man becomes intimate, demanding, unsettling. He starts to reveal things about his family, his past, his obsessions. The room feels tighter. The act of clicking, once mundane, starts to feel grotesque. It's no longer about earning money, it's about power, submission, and witnessing a breakdown, and maybe even being part of it. Clickholding is short, around 30 to 40 minutes long, but in that time it builds a uniquely disturbing experience, a hybrid of clicker mechanics, psychological horror, and narrative satire. It uses repetition not to reward, but to rot. Beneath its strange, mimetic surface, it explores themes of voyeurism, desperation, suicide, and sexual tension. In this video, we're going to break down the many layers of clickholding, because clickholding isn't just asking you to click, it's asking you to choose, to obey, to watch, to keep going, or not. This is clickholding, the game that dares you to see yourself not as the player, but as the thing being played. There's a moment in clickholding when you realise something isn't quite right, not just with the task, but with him. He never leaves the room, he never stops watching. While your finger hammers the tally counter, his masked face stares, always locked on you, and he talks, softly, intimately, creeping closer to the boundary of what feels safe, what feels sane. It starts to feel less like a transaction and more like a performance, a private show, just for him. This is where clickholding peels back its first major thematic layer, voyeurism. The very title of the game, clickholding, is a reference to the term cuckolding, a well-known fetish involving humiliation and power dynamics. The term itself carries layers of meaning tied to voyeurism, emasculation, and sexual submission. And while the game never explicitly crosses into outright sexual content, its tone, dialogue, and design cleverly uses these elements to make you complicit in a deeply uncomfortable interaction. Throughout the game, the man increasingly sexualizes the act of clicking, the repetitive motion of pressing the button, initially simple and mechanical, takes on an uncomfortable weight. The man praises you as you click, and transforms this simple action into something more disturbing. The more you comply, the more intimate the relationship becomes. By framing the clicking as an act of submission, clickholding cleverly taps into the language of sexual exploitation. He encourages you to continue, to meet his demands, but the cost of doing so is not only physical, it's psychological. The game forces you to grapple with the discomfort of being coerced into a degrading task, for no reward other than his approval. It's a constant reminder that the control is in his hands. Your reward, the money, becomes secondary to the control he exerts over your choices. In this way, the game engages with the trope of sexual humiliation in a highly indirect way. The fetishistic undertones permeate the atmosphere, turning what is essentially a mundane click-in task into a performance of submission, forcing the player to confront the psychological and emotional ramifications of the act. It's a game of labour that is strangely eroticized, but it's also a game of power dynamics that plays with your expectations and boundaries. The game is fundamentally about being watched. You, the player, are stuck in a small room with a man who observes your every move. The clicking is mechanical, but your obedience is psychological. It's not enough that you're doing the task, he wants you to choose to do it, and the more you comply, the more power he seems to have. His tone is gently perverse, like encouragement dripping with implication. His words make you question not only what you're doing, but why you're doing it, and for whose pleasure. This is the reversal that makes clickholding so uncomfortable. Most games position the player as the observer, in control of the character, the camera, the choices, but here, you are the observed. The man speaks to you, not your character, not an avatar, you. And because there's no real agency beyond pressing the button, your one freedom becomes how you respond to his gaze. And that's where power comes into play. Power in the game is deeply asymmetrical. Ostensibly, you have the goal. Reach 9,999 and get the money. But progress is not linear. The man can stop you, he can demand things, tell you not to click, threaten to take away your rewards unless you comply. At times he even withholds interaction, letting the silence stretch as you sit there, unsure if continuing will make things worse. He controls the terms of your labour, he controls the narrative. You are clicking on his time, not yours. And yet, he also needs you. He needs you to click. He can't do it himself. He's obsessed with the counter, but powerless to fulfill its promise. The clicking is ritualistic to him, maybe even spiritual. You're not a player, you're a vessel. This creates a strange, shifting power dynamic. You hold the labour, he holds the reward. But emotionally, it's a bit murkier. As he reveals more about himself, his estranged family, his hang-up, his obsession with the counter, it becomes clear he's unravelling. The power he holds is illusory and fragile. His control over you is real only because you agree to be controlled. This is the game's quiet genius. It implicates you. It invites you to reflect on how easily power is exchanged, how thin the line is between service and dominance, and how consent can blur when money and pressure enter the picture. You don't want to disobey, not because you're afraid, but because you're curious. How far will this go? And then there's the mask. The man's face is never shown. The mask is blank, but faintly human, flesh-toned, disturbingly smooth. He could be anyone. He could be no one. In a game obsessed with watching and being watched, the mask does something brilliant. It removes his vulnerability while exposing yours. You can't read him. You can't gauge his emotion. He becomes a monolith, a stand-in for the system, for the audience, for the patron, for the client, for the employer. He is the gaze incarnate. Masks also have ties to performance, to anonymity, to ritual. In kink and fetish spaces, masks are tools for both dehumanization and empowerment. The game borrows that language without being explicit. It's never clear if this is erotic for him, but it's certainly not just business. By the time he begins spiraling, voicing fantasies about disappearing, about family he doesn't speak to, about a life consumed by the clicker, his power is nearly gone. He's broken, but he never stops watching. Even in despair, he clings to the role that he's created for himself. Watcher, judge, voyeur. And when he finally ends his own life right in front of you, it's not just a narrative climax. It's a collapse of that power structure. The watcher is gone. The ritual is broken. You are alone, and suddenly, so is the clicker. But the real question clickholding leaves you with isn't about him, it's about you. Now that no one's watching, will you keep clicking? There's a weight in clickholding that builds with each press of the counter. At first, it's just numbers ticking upwards, a grind, a task. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, that weight shifts. It moves off your finger and into your chest. Something isn't right. The room feels heavier, the tension thicker, and the man's words, once cryptic or teasing, begin to fray at the edges. Something is unraveling. That something is him. We don't talk about suicide in games very often, at least not in a way that's personal, slow, and tragic. In Clickholding, suicide isn't a plot twist, it's a progression. It's a climb you feel long before it's spoken aloud. The man begins the game with a kind of smug composure. He's confident, maybe even self-assured. He has the money, he has the rules, he's in charge. But as the tally rises, that mask of power starts to crack. Emotionally, not just literally. He becomes confessional, vulnerable, unsettlingly human. He talks about his family, how they don't know what he does in this room, how he can't face them anymore. He talks about the counter, how it means more to him than anything else, as if it holds truth. He speaks of the clicks not as numbers, but as a form of absolution, an obsession, a burden, a lover. The more he speaks, the clearer it becomes. The man is not well. He is a man drowning in his own isolation, clinging to a routine that gives him just enough structure to stay afloat, until now. The act of clicking becomes a shared ritual, but also a countdown. Not just to 9,999, but to a breakdown, a finality. His unraveling isn't portrayed with dramatics, it's quiet, achingly quiet, which is exactly what makes it feel so real. The suicide itself happens without a scream, without warning, without music. One moment he's there, the next he isn't. He shoots himself. There's no elaborate cutscene, no final monologue, just an absence. The door is closed, but you can leave whenever you want. The money is under the bed, and now it's only you and the clicker. What makes this moment so disturbing is how unceremonious it feels. It's not romanticized, it's not framed as a lesson, it just is. And in doing so, it mirrors the terrifying ordinariness of real mental health collapse. How it can happen gradually, quietly, and then all at once. But Clickholding doesn't let you off the hook. His death doesn't end the game. The clicking can continue. You can press the counter again, and again, and again, for no money, no audience, no reward. This is where the game implicates you most deeply, because now the performance is over. The man who paid you, watched you, judged you, he's dead. You're free to leave, but the clicker is still there. That's when you realize it was never just about him. Maybe you need the clicker now. Maybe the ritual gave you purpose. Maybe you're just stuck, unable to let go of a loop that has outlived its meaning. And suddenly, the suicide isn't just a story beat. It's a mirror, a warning, a question. What happens when the person you're performing for disappears, and you keep performing anyway? The man's final act doesn't just end his life, it destabilizes yours. Up until that point, you had a goal, a structure, a reason to endure the discomfort. But now, it's just you, alone in silence, clicking, not for money anymore, not for survival, just because you don't know what else to do. The game doesn't judge you for continuing, but it does make you sit with the choice, and that is far more powerful. In this way, the game is less about suicide as an event and more about the emotional erosion that leads to it, the unraveling self, the slow disintegration of identity, purpose, connection, and it asks, indirectly, how close are you to that edge? How many clicks away? It's rare for a game to treat mental illness with such raw ambiguity, not as a metaphor, not as an obstacle, but as a presence, an atmosphere. The room doesn't change, but you do, and it's in that stillness, after the gunshot, after the silence, that the horror truly lands. Because the final terror of Clickholding isn't the death of the man you were clicking for, it's the realization that maybe you're not clicking for anyone anymore, you're just still clicking. This decision whether or not to continue clicking after the man's death is not just an ending choice, it's a meta-commentary on human nature, on addiction, on the need for purpose, and on how even after something has ended, the force of habit can keep us locked in cycles we no longer understand or control. The post-credits screen is a stark reminder for that. for all the drama and chaos that preceded it. Nothing in the world of Clickholdin has really changed. The room is still there, the counter is still counting, the man is gone, but the ritual remains. And now the player faces a quiet, chilling decision to keep clicking or to walk away. But this is not a true decision in the sense of a moral choice. There is no right answer, no hidden benefit or failure depending on your actions. The game doesn't offer redemption through the choice of whether to stop. Instead, it lays bare something much more insidious: the difficulty of breaking free from a cycle even after its meaning has vanished. In this way, the choice feels like an illusion. The man may have died, but his presence lingers in the form of the task, the ritual, and the constant ticking of the clicker. The player is given the agency to stop, but how real is that agency if the choice to keep clicking is so enticing? The counter continues to beckon, promising a reward that is never come in. This tension plays on the addiction to productivity, the obsessive desire to complete something, even when you know it holds no further value. And with the clicker, you start to think, what's the next goal? Is it 15,000? 20,000? 30,000? There's some people that have even gone up to 1 million. The post-credit scene serves as an unsettling reminder of how easily habit can replace meaning. By the time the game ends, the clicks have become less about achieving something or gaining a reward. They're about completing a task. There's no longer any promise of wealth, no offer of salvation. The man is gone and the game is technically over, and yet the act of clicking, which was once the path towards something tangible, has now become its own form of psychological addiction. This moment is a critique of the human tendency to continue doing something, even when it no longer serves any real purpose. The game mirrors the compulsions we face in our daily lives: the grind of work, the obsession with completing tasks, the constant drive to fill empty time with activity, even when that activity offers nothing of substance. The habit becomes a reward. There's a profound existential question embedded in this post-credits decision. What happens when the task itself becomes your only source of meaning, when you no longer care about the reward, but are simply propelled by the need to do? In the world of Clickholdin, the game's final moments question the nature of work, of purpose, and of existence itself. The decision to click or not to click taps into a deeper psychological truth. Humans often continue cycles of behavior long after they lose their original intent, whether it's through addiction, routine, or simply the need to feel busy. We find comfort in repetition, even when it brings no joy or satisfaction. In many ways, the post-credit scene reflects the unending cycle of work and productivity that plagues modern life. The man's death might signify the end of an era for him, but the player remains in the same room with the same task. There is no clear end, no closure, just the dissonance of a world that refuses to stop spinning, even after that gave it meaning has collapsed. The post-credit choice challenges the player to confront their own engagement with the game. Are you really playing Clickholdin for the clicks, or are you just caught up in the rhythm of it? The real question the game poses is not whether or not you continue clicking, but why you choose to. Do you click because it's the only thing left to do, because you need to finish what you started, or because you're stuck in a repetitive pattern that no longer holds meaning? In broader sense, the post-credit choice also speaks to the idea of escapism. After the death of the man, there is nothing left to escape to. The money is irrelevant, the promise of freedom is a lie, and the only thing left is the endless grinding task. The player is free, in theory, to leave, but the world they inhabit is one where habit, addiction, and the cycle of labor bind them. In this way, the post-credits choice highlights the futility of the original promise. The money that was once a reason to keep going, a symbol of hope and escape, is revealed to just be another tool of control, keeping you locked in place even after the person who made the rules is gone. The true nature of Clickholdin is not just about the money, the clicks, or the man itself, but about the human need for meaning. Even when none is provided, the choice is yours, but in the end, it's not really a choice at all. Clickholdin can also be seen as a satire of clicker games, a genre that in recent years has exploded in popularity thanks to their addictive and repetitive mechanics. These games, where the player constantly clicks to earn resources or rewards, are designed to be as mindless and compulsive as possible. And ClickHoldin knows this. It doesn't just replicate the mechanics of a clicker game, it deconstructs them, exposing their inherent emptiness and questioning why we continue to engage in these loops of seemingly endless effort. Clicker games like Cookie Clicker or Idle Miner Tycoon and other things like that often offer the player an illusion of progress. You click and eventually you unlock new upgrades or features that give you the sensation of success. But the actual reward is shallow and fleeting. These games tap into psychological cycle of labor, where players perform repetitive actions for the sake of unlocking the next goal, without ever truly questioning the meaning of the task. ClickHoldin takes this very formula and amplifies it to its darkest conclusion. The click-in, once a simple activity to pass time or earn rewards, becomes symbolic. It's no longer about gaining resources, it's about the cost of that activity, both physically and emotionally. The game strips away any pretensions of productivity and exposes the pointlessness behind the act of clicking. It asks, what if this task was all you had left? What if the game's very design manipulated you into clicking for something that was never truly attainable? In ClickHoldin, the player's caught in a bizarre, repetitive cycle of clicking, driven by the promises of money, success, and satisfaction. However, as the game unfolds, these promises are revealed to be nothing more than a smokescreen, hiding a deeper exploration of themes such as power dynamics, addiction, identity, and human vulnerability. The game may appear at first glance to be a simple satire of clicker mechanics, but it is, in reality, a complex commentary on the darker sides of human nature and modern existence. The man is a figure of control and manipulation and mirrors the way external forces, whether societal, economic, or relational, shape our behavior. His masked presence, voyeuristic nature, and domination of the player highlight the psychological and emotional toll of submission, while the incessant clicking reflects on our own compulsions, whether they be rooted in the grind of capitalism or the futile pursuit of validation. Through the lens of the cuckoldin metaphor, the game draws attention to the humiliation, emasculation, and loss of autonomy that can come with living in systems designed to exploit rather than reward. Perhaps the most striking aspect of ClickHoldin is its post-credits choice, to click or not to click. This seemingly simple decision encapsulates the core of the game's message. Even when the game is over, the cycle remains. The player is faced with the question of continuing an action that no longer serves a clear purpose, which resonates with how many people find themselves stuck in patterns of behavior that bring no fulfillment. In offering the player a choice that holds no real consequence, the game forces us to confront the illusion of agency and the difficulty of breaking free from habits that no longer make sense. At its heart, ClickHoldin isn't just a critique of the clicker genre or a commentary on mindless game mechanics. It's a profound exploration of human dependence on external validation, the emptiness of unchecked labor, and the endless pursuit of meaning in a world that often feels devoid of it. Through its disturbing symbolism and unnerving atmosphere, ClickHoldin serves as a stark reminder of how easily we can become trapped in cycles of pointless effort, always hoping for something that may never come. Ultimately, the game leaves us questioning the nature of labor, satisfaction, and agency in our lives. It forces us to ask, what are we really working for? And when will we realize it's all been for nothing?